So often hear politicians say the government should never get between a patient and that patient's doctor. But in the state of Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer has banned a huge swath of medical procedures in her state, but she hasn't banned abortion. Planned Parenthood open for business. Why is that? J.D. Vance joins us next to talk about it. One group of victims in this pandemic who for some reason have been all but ignored are the many Americans who badly need medical and dental procedures right now but can't get them thanks to the lockdown. You never see these people on television. Most are suffering in silence. We've all been told we must sacrifice for the sake of the country. But is there a good reason these people are suffering? What exactly is the logic here? Well, consider what's happening in Michigan. On March 21st, Governor Gretchen Whitmer issued an executive order prohibiting all doctors and dentists in the state from performing what she called non-essential procedures. According to Governor Whitmer, scheduled joint replacements are among them. They are not essential, so they are now banned. If you ever had a hip or knee or ankle that has stopped functioning or known anyone who has, you understand what this means. People don't get joint replacements lightly. Every joint replacement is essential by definition. This isn't Botox. When joints go bad, bone grinds on bone. People can't walk. They wind up in wheelchairs, which frequently leads to a cascade of health disasters. Immobility kills people. It happens all the time. Tough luck, says Gretchen Whitmer. Scheduled joint replacements are now illegal in the state of Michigan. Performing one is a criminal act. Is there valid science behind this order? No, there is not. And we know that conclusively because Governor Whitmer has exempted elective abortion from her ban. In other words, people who can't walk are not allowed to get treatment, but Planned Parenthood is open for business. The other day, Whitmer was asked about this discrepancy. Here's what she said.
We stopped elective surgeries here in Michigan, and some people have tried to say that that type of a procedure is considered the same, and that's ridiculous. You know, a woman's health care, her whole future, her ability to decide if and when she starts a family is not an election. It is a fundamental to her life. It is life-sustaining, and it's something that government should not be getting in the middle of.
Did you follow that? Abortion is essential. It is, quote, life-sustaining. Abortion is not something the government can, quote, get in the middle of. Abortion isn't like rescuing crippled people from rotting in wheelchairs. That, by contrast, would be, quote, non-essential. Joint replacements are, in fact, one medical procedure the government is happy to get in the middle of. Joint replacements aren't a matter of conscience, something women should decide in consultation with their physicians. No, just the opposite. Gretchen Whitmer will punish you for attempting to perform one. That's her stated position. Gretchen Whitmer is a ghoul. She is a dangerous ideologue who knows nothing about science and doesn't care to learn. Whitmer deems elective abortion essential because the abortion lobby has bankrolled her political career. She is encouraging liquor and lotto ticket sales in her state because sin taxes levied on the poorest people in Michigan fund her government. She bans church services because she knows who her political opponents are. These are not decisions rooted in epidemiology or science. They are partisan political decisions, every one. And she's not the only governor making them right now. J.D. Vance is the author of Hillbilly Elegy. He joins us tonight. J.D., thanks so much for coming on. I think you and I agree, I know that we do, because we talk a lot, that this is a very serious illness that we should be afraid of and that we should take affirmative steps to protect the population from. So I think we can just start there. Are you concerned, however, in the way that some politicians have interpreted that mandate, that politics are getting involved? A bunch of states have banned procedures like joint replacements but kept elective abortion legal. What does that tell us?
Well, I think it tells us a couple things, Tucker. First is it's pretty sad that things that are politically favored, like abortion, like the abortion lobby, is deemed essential care, but things like heart surgeries, like joint replacements, are not deemed essential surgeries. Obviously, that means that a lot of people, frankly, are suffering, and we know they're suffering in a context where most hospitals outside of New York City are not overrun, and so you just have a lot of needless human suffering. That's really, really terrible. But the second piece of this is, like you said, Tucker, you and I think that this is a serious problem. But if you think that it's a serious problem, then leaders need to be trusted. They need to have their orders followed.
Exactly.
And if their orders will be followed, they actually have to be acting in good faith. And so if you look at the list of things you're not allowed to do in Michigan right now, like buy tomato seed at Home Depot, like go fishing with a motorboat, and you compare that to the things that you aren't allowed to do in Michigan, like get an abortion, if I'm a person living in Michigan right now, I wonder if those restrictions are about public health or if they're about who has a political line to the governor. And I think, unfortunately, for some of these issues, we know the answer.
So the point you're making, the broader point you're making, is this degrades the public's trust in the authorities. And in a time of crisis, that's a dangerous thing.
That's exactly right. I mean, you know, if you want people to follow these social distancing guidelines, you have to have leaders who are trustworthy on the one hand, and you have to make it as easy to follow those orders as possible. You know, I like to grow tomatoes in my backyard, Tucker, and if I lived in Michigan, it would be much harder to do that because of the orders that Governor Whitmer has enforced all across the state. But if you think about this just from the perspective of an average person, you're stuck at home, you're trying to be a good citizen who's following these guidelines, but the government is making it harder for you to do very basic, natural things that you would want to do while, quote unquote, social distancing. But you know, you'd like to be doing those things. You'd like to be stuck at home, actually enjoying your life and not just watching Netflix or, you know, getting an abortion, which are, you know, few of the only things that you can apparently do in Michigan right now.
There's a kind of component of the Aldous Huxley novel Brave New World where an authoritarian government dopes up the population on a drug called Soma so they won't notice how completely barren their lives are. And you've got to kind of wonder, government after government is pushing us toward getting loaded and playing lotto. Maybe there's kind of a Soma element at play here, or am I being paranoid?
Well, I don't think you're being paranoid, Tucker, because if we're going to have people follow these orders, they need to be reasonable and they need to be connected to public health. If you're a person trying to follow the rules, you're not going to follow stupid rules. You're not going to follow rules that have nothing to do with actually limiting the spread of the coronavirus. At the end of the day, there's no rational public health justification for telling people they can't buy tomato seeds on the one hand, but they can buy marijuana on the other, or they can get an abortion. And I think that our leaders need to think about not just whether these orders make moral sense. That's, of course, a very important question. But do they govern in a way that makes it easier for people to actually follow the social distancing guidelines? And if they don't, then what is the purpose of this whole thing if we're actually making it harder for good, honest citizens to follow the rules that we're trying to get them to follow?
That's right. They're devaluing their own legitimacy. It's dangerous over time, I would say. Very smart. JD, great to see you tonight. JD Vance.
Thanks, Tucker.